How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. We are in December. We are 20 days away from Christmas on this wonderful Monday, December 5th, the year 2022.
Do you guys have anything on your Christmas list that's Star Wars-y?
That's Lacey. And James
I don't.
is over here as well. I don't either.
My stuff, I don't know if you'll believe this or not.
I'm sure I will.
Most
Apple.
of my stuff is soccer stuff because I don't have anything. And I was
Look
like,
at this guy.
I know. I was like,
oh my God.
I was like,
Shin guards
never-
coming in.
I've never had, no, not like that. Like, just t-shirts,
Jerseys and stuff, hats.
yeah, that
Any
type
hats?
stuff. Yeah.
Good for you, James. James, I'm so pumped that you're pumped about
He's a
that.
hooligan now.
I love when people get super into something and then like you see them progress and they're like passionate about it. I love it.
We'll see
Can
where
I
it
get
goes.
an apology,
but
though, from James?
What?
Can I get an apology?
For
you
what?
made fun of sports for years and how I like sports.
That's because you're a bro.
Constantly. She always throws that out there like, I'm a bro. I don't think Lacey knows what a bro is.
I
'cause
do.
I'm not
I
a
don't
bro.
think you know what a hooligan is.
I probably do. It's probably offensive, so I apologize if the word hooligan's offensive. I don't know if it is, but...
To shorten it, it's just the people who like get mobby over sports, over soccer.
Yeah, there's a good movie called, I think, Green Street Hooligans. I haven't seen it, but I heard it's like a really good movie.
So he took the
Um,
title from that movie and then has been calling you it, even though he's never seen the movie and doesn't know what the word means.
Nah.
No, I've heard of the term hooligans
Yeah, for
before that
sure.
movie. They didn't invent the term. But anyway, we're here to talk about Star Wars.
We are.
But James, yeah, what? So you're getting some soccer stuff?
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. It is one of those things, Lacey, you put it perfectly. It's like when just for some reason, and I'm like, maybe I burn out on it, but like, why not enjoy it while I'm like on fire?
Ride that
for it,
ride.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Ride that ride.
So it's like every time I go to the mall, I'm like, I want to go down to the sports store because that one has like a Cincinnati section, and I'm always like, oh, this stuff is so cool. It's like blue and orange, man. Love it.
Love it.
So we'll
Wow.
see.
So Lacey, what Star Wars things are on your Christmas list?
I'm like super lame. I don't think I have any Star Wars things on my list yet because every time there's something that's Star Wars related, I just buy it.
Yeah.
I bought myself something a while ago, pre-ordered it, and I forgot, but it hasn't come yet. But I got the Obi-Wan lightsaber.
Yeah, you did. That's right.
I don't know. I don't have no idea when that. It's just one day it's gonna show up. I'm gonna be like, Kathleen, what did you buy now online?
Are
And
you
I'm gonna
kidding?
open it. It's
Oh my
gonna
God,
be
the
like,
amount of boxes that come to my house. Yeah, that happened with me. I bought the Mandalorian Ahsoka Grogu set from Hasbro.
Mm-hmm.
I bought one for me and then one for the podcast to give away. So
Did
I
they
got
come
it.
in?
What?
Did they come in?
Yeah, I have them at my house.
Oh,
I have them next to me. They're still in the box, but they showed up at my
Okay.
house and I was just like, I don't remember getting this, but I know that when we operate as a podcast and something really cool comes out that we want to do a giveaway for you guys, as in the listeners, eventually I'm like, do you guys want me to grab one? And I always grab one and then one for myself as well. So when I get the box, I'm like, how do I have two of these?
Oh yeah.
I'll say one thing, honestly. And it's going to sound like an ad because it is, but the best Star Wars gift that I got for Christmas was the Columbia jacket.
Oh,
which
yeah, those are really nice.
They sent that to
killed it.
us, and I got that hat as well. But like, yeah, it's so nice, so awesome.
The hat looks good on you. You wore it the other day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh,
James. John, you haven't worn the hat.
I wore it in my video.
He did
I'm
wear
saying
it.
you haven't worn it on the show.
Oh.
But no, again, thanks to Columbia for sending us that stuff. I have
that's
always
awesome.
wanted the Columbia Star Wars brand or line or something from there. And
Yeah.
honestly,
So
like I
cool.
went back and was looking at all of them. I think this might be like the best one or the one that I would probably choose anyway,
I loved that crew jacket just for the callback of it.
Mhm.
Those were impossible to get.
Oh, yeah, the
Those
blue
were
and
impossible. Orange.
But that's the thing is like that would probably have been my number one. But then I was looking at this new one and I'm like, it's basically that same one. It doesn't have the orange on it, but
yeah.
And again, I was just talking about blue and orange, so I
Yeah.
should want that one more. Blue and orange.
The other
FC
thing
Cincinnati.
I definitely did which I'm so guilty of, is like when I see Christmassy Star Wars stuff come out, like back in like
Oh, right.
July, August, September, when I start seeing it on Target's website, I always buy it. So I bought like a Grogu stocking. I bought like all these Christmas ornaments. So if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/at the Resistance Broadcast, right?
That's right.
I will have a tree up next week with only Star Wars ornaments. I'm so excited. I've never done this before. I'm pumped.
That's
I
cool.
just put my like we had put our tree up and put like the stock ornaments on, like the red and green balls and the like Christmassy type of things.
Does Kathleen
just
have a
finally
theme or
green
no? Is it just
balls.
random?
No, it's me because I have all the like weird ornaments and stuff. So it's like some Yankee stuff, a lot of my Star Wars stuff I put up. Like I have the 1997 Darth Vader Hallmark ornament, which every time you turn your lights on the Christmas tree, the soundbite comes and it's James Earl Jones saying that famous line when the Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you're not a Jedi yet. So anytime we plug our tree in, that's the first thing you hear is the breathing and then that. And it's the 25 that came out 25 years ago, that ornament, and it's still like in good shape. Thankfully, I put it high up on the tree enough so my kids can't rip it down and smash it on the ground.
Yeah.
It's well taken
I've
care
put
of.
so many jingle bells on the last layer of the tree. But Daisy's figured out how to take them off and put them back on, so they're just all over the place.
God, yeah. My Daisy rips off the balls and smashes them on the ground like they're grenades.
Oh, that's bad.
She thinks they're balls because we have bouncy balls in the house.
Yeah.
That that she can bounce around. She thinks so she goes ball.
Sounds like she takes after you,
Yeah.
just smashing things.
Yeah.
I was gonna say real quick that my wife and I, and it's her idea, and I'm glad she did it. Is like even like right before, like when she knew I was gonna propose, we kind of started this, but we started buying an ornament for every special thing that we went on, like every vacation or every
Oh,
time.
I love that.
Every time we went to a specific place
Yeah.
or something.
That's great.
Or something that I think like one time we went to like a Back to the Future DeLorean Fest or something like that. And
I do the
so
same thing. Like
so we
anytime I go
grabbed-
somewhere cool. Yeah.
we grabbed one of
That's
those
cool.
and stuff. So our whole tree has become
Your life, your travels.
Yeah, the whole
I
history
love
of like
that.
us together. So you can kind of look it over and be like,
Yeah.
oh, that's us in Hawaii, that's us in
Yeah.
Italy.
My
or
tradition is it started with my mom actually. It's every year up until we were like 18. She would buy us an ornament. It different every year, but like she'd always write the year on it. So
Mhm.
then when you left, you had a box full of ornaments. So I'm starting to do it for my daughter. I'm really pumped.
I'm starting to feel like
Nice.
Jeff Goldblum in that truck in Jurassic Park where he's like, eventually there will be a
Star Wars.
Star Wars talk on this Star Wars podcast, right?
There
Whatever.
will. So I'm gonna fire it up right now. We're gonna get right into our discussion this week.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
All right, discussion this week: Rian Johnson and his future with Star Wars, the double-edged laser sword, if you will. So hear me out. Rian Johnson, obviously an extremely talented and accomplished filmmaker. The Last Jedi grossed over $1.6 billion at the box office.
With a B.
Was a hit with critics, but was divisive among Star Wars fans, which many would argue fandom still hasn't recovered. Knives Out, massive success commercially and critically, even earning Johnson an Academy Award nomination for writing. The director is very candid about wanting to make more Star Wars. His ability as a writer and director is never in question, by most. But the double-edged laser sword is, can Star Wars fandom handle his return? So let's discuss that. The idea of if not will he, we've talked about this. Will he come back? Won't he come back? Assuming he does come back, let's enter that discussion from that perspective. What would that be like? What are do the pros outweigh the cons? Like, obviously we think he would probably make a quality product, but can fandom handle his return in general? So that's sort of like, I think what's on a lot of people's minds. And it makes me nervous too, because I would, admittedly, I'll start by saying, would love to see Rian Johnson come back to Star Wars with a clean slate on something that isn't tied to anything precious to anybody. give this man the blank page he had when he created Knives Out, and have him make his Star Wars story that doesn't necessarily alter anything that anyone has preconceived notions about characters and their futures or what have you. But it also, I am nervous because I know just his name when it's mentioned, because oftentimes when he was still making his trilogy, which I think is no longer happening, he even talks about, like, I'll do anything for Star Wars, a TV show, whatever.
Yeah, like, God, I hope so, I think is the last thing he said.
So that planned trilogy to me is no longer a thing. They're still obviously talking. He talks to Kathleen Kennedy a lot, but my nerves are, people seem to get nervous just talking about him in Star Wars. And I think it would be very tough for fans to be online while he's out there making and promoting a new Star Wars project. I think it still is that divisive. When you see The Last Jedi trending, I turn and run the other way. And that doesn't have anything to do with my personal relationship with that movie. It's just I know how people still are about that. And I don't think fandom has fully recovered from that. And I use it as sort of the mark, like pre-TLJ, post-TLJ, in terms of how fans are online with each other. But I just thought it'd be an interesting topic. So whoever wants to take it, let's enter this as though Rian Johnson said he's coming back to Star Wars. How do you feel about that? And how do you think it would be in terms of, like, this guy's going to come and make a Star Wars movie or TV show, but also what's that going to be like for fans and all of that?
James?
I have initial thoughts. My first thought is that one thing Lucasfilm has on its side to Rian coming back is that it's not a surprise, because they've been, I mean, not necessarily Lucasfilm themselves, but they announced this, and it's been something that he's been like, yeah, I'm working on it, or I hope it happens, or when it happens, it will do this, and it's like it keeps getting
James,
brought
real
up.
Quick, to be clear, we're not sitting here saying like they just recently said he is coming back.
No.
This is just hypothetically it happens and he comes back.
Yeah. I think what would be worse is if there hadn't been an announcement for his stuff, the movie happens, and it's just radio silence, and then they bring him back one day, and everybody's like,
I agree
what?
with that. Yeah.
So they do have one thing on is that it's been continually talked about, and every time it gets brought up, fans like us are saying, it doesn't look like it's happening. I bet it's not happening. But it has been one of those things where every time it gets brought up, it's like Rian still iterates that it's probably happening, possibly happening. So I think they have that to their advantage. The other side of it, though, is that some of his recent comments said, I'd like to do anything. And that got me thinking, okay, don't jump straight in. Taika Waititi, brilliant, accomplished filmmaker just the same, came into Star Wars doing like an episode of a TV series. And I thought, they could kind of dip their toes with Rian Johnson again. Let him say, well, I'm not ready to commit 2 years, but I am willing to commit to, I don't know, the season
I would
finale
let him write or direct an
Ahsoka
episode
or something or whatever. Yeah. And maybe if that story or that portion or something about the smaller scale Rian Johnson thing was met with positive expectations, it wouldn't be, let's get clear, but I think like they could navigate through that and see about a more realistic possibility of him coming back in a bigger capacity.
That's tricky. I like what you guys are suggesting. I'm just thinking right now, like, Ahsoka, absolutely not. Anything that's precious to fans, he needs to stay far away from for his own good. I'm not saying he wouldn't do a good job. People already have preconceived notions about the Luke stuff. They would tear it apart before they even had a chance to like it. I think, like, I hope there's other stuff that expand, but the furthest thing right now, probably Acolyte. Imagine they somehow keep the lid on this.
That's what I'm picturing. Like, you watch the season finale of Mandalorian season 2, and then it says written and directed by Rian Johnson or something. And everybody's
exactly.
like,
people's minds explode because they're like, I loved it, but I hate that guy. I don't know what to do now.
Like, yeah.
And it's like, but it would have to be written and directed by Rian Johnson, because if he directed something from The Acolyte or another show, people be like, oh, he can direct Star Wars. He writes it like crap, but he can direct it.
Yeah.
It would have to be both, and people would have to like it and then see the names and not know what to say. Lacey, I don't know. What do you think with this situation? Rian Johnson hypothetically comes back. How do you feel? Do you feel anxious as a fan who has a big online presence? How do you feel about that compared to his talent? And you like Knives Out, and the three of us, to be clear, have not seen Glass Onion yet, but we've heard great things about it.
I loved Knives Out. I thought it was
Me too.
awesome. It was one of those movies I left and I was like, that was killer.
Yeah.
So creative, so well done.
Pun intended.
The shots are beautiful. The story is just so intriguing that as soon as they announced he was doing another one, I was like, of course they are. It's amazing. The Last Jedi, I've been very open that I have things that I don't like about it, but that's normal. That's normal with any movie, that you have things that you like and you don't like.
Really quick, can I jump in on that Knives Out thing?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just that they were doing a sequel, because of course they would. It was a hit movie. It was how they were doing a sequel. And I felt so energized by that freshness of, we're only bringing back one character. It's not connected. And every one of these movies that we do is just going to have that one
just
character.
The detective, yeah.
It's like the Agatha Christie Poirot stuff.
Yeah, and we could do movies on movies on movies as long as Daniel Craig is willing to return. It doesn't have to be connected. It can be completely free. You don't have to, and you could go see Glass Onion and not see Knives Out, and that's very rare that it would like totally. I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm assuming that's the case, because that's the genius of what they're doing. Is that you could go see it and it would just be a good movie on its own, while still carrying over fans.
But
from the
watch
last movie.
Willow before you watch Glass Onion, just to make sure you understand what's
Yes.
going on.
Yeah.
I have a weird kind of reaction relationship with any time Rian Johnson comes up, and it's because there's so much kind of tension that surrounds him, and I feel bad for him because it's not necessarily his fault. I don't think he deserves the negativity, and I don't think he deserves that attention. I just think it's something that's come with the territory, because again, like John was saying earlier, he influenced very important characters, not just in Star Wars, but in pop culture. Like Luke Skywalker is like one of the top heroes of our time. So anytime you see that has such a background and such a connection with so many people, me included, and has impacted you as a person, it's never going to be done the way you want it to be done, because it's such a personal relationship. So I feel like Rian was already on kind of like, I don't know, like eggshells, because he was already doing something with a character that people were never going to be 100% on board with, especially if they have a personal connection with it, especially if he's killing it. You know what I mean? Like as soon as you're like, oh, I'm killing him, you're like, what? And most people were like, unless he's going down in a blaze of glory, taking people with him, I don't want it. And that's just how it is.
Right.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong. So my initial reaction to this question is like, do I want to see him come back and do something really cool? 100%. He is capable of doing things that I could never. His creative genius is on a level that my brain can never be at. Like some people are just very, very smart, intelligent, skilled, creative. And we're all at different levels in who we are as people, but he's like George Lucas level. Like he's at a level that I could never ever get to. My brain doesn't work that way.
He's a great storyteller, yeah.
Right. So I feel like, do I want to see something from him? 100%, 110%. Yes. Do I want to see something from him within Star Wars? Yes, I do. Do I want the reaction that could come from it, with the tension and fandom and what has become of this kind of cloud that's over Rian Johnson? No, I don't want to see that. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want fans to have to deal with it. I don't want the negativity that comes from it. And I feel like there's been kind of this attitude of, oh, well, if he comes back, then everybody will just, stop. And I'm like, I don't think they will. I don't think it's going to get better. I think that's why we haven't seen anything from him yet. And I feel bad for him because they're holding him back from making something that could be the best thing that's ever happened to Star Wars, you know, if you don't agree with The Last Jedi or whatever, but like it could be the next best thing.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you guys this, because I do agree with what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Sure.
I am kind of curious though, when we talk about the people who really did not like Last Jedi, how many of them are the types of people that say, oh, Rian Johnson, he's fine. Like, let him go do something else, Star Wars. Just I hated 8. And I hated what he did with 8. And so is like, when we think about Rian Johnson coming back in, we think we might be revisiting what we got with Last Jedi, but it might actually be a little bit more like you have Rian Johnson positive fans being positive for him, and you also have you have a certain amount of people who didn't like 8 and who doesn't like what he did with 8 and was very vocal about that, also being positive about his other project, because it's not Luke Skywalker and it's this other thing. And they're fine with him doing this other thing in Star Wars. They just will never forgive him for doing what he did in 8. Kind of thing. You know
I
what
hear
mean?
what you're saying, but
that it's not so much John.
I think
like,
majority of people that don't like The Last Jedi don't want Rian Johnson touching Star Wars ever again.
I don't know that that's the case. I feel like when I talk to people about generally, like for instance, you, Lacey, like I didn't like what he did with 8, but I do want him to do something else with Star Wars.
Certain elements of 8. I loved what he did with Kylo Ren. I loved what he did with Rey. I just didn't like Luke.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But it seems to me like when I talk about Rian Johnson coming back to Star Wars with other people, it's like they really didn't like what he did with that movie, but there is this other side of them where they go, but I can't deny he's good, and I think that if he was doing something else, it would be great.
I think there's enough people that
might be a little bit warm welcomed in by a certain group of people who also did hate 8.
I hear what you're saying. I think that there's kind of these pockets of people, which is a good chunk of people, and even fans, like, I don't want to say who it is, but like fans that I know that would say, no, I don't want him to touch it. I don't want him to go because it's just such a negative experience that they've had. And again, I think the thing to distinguish here is that movies, books, TV shows, any type of media that you're taking in is a personal journey, is a personal reaction. And I think that that's what's the problem with a lot of people is they're not able to separate the fact that, hey, so-and-so over here did not have a good journey with this, so they don't want more. So they don't understand the movie. And it's like, no, they just didn't like it. Now, those people have had such a reaction to that, and I think it's due to fandom saying, hey, you're wrong, hey, you're wrong, hey, you're wrong for not liking it, that it's then been connected to Rian Johnson. They're taking that journey and connecting it to him, and they say, I don't even want that anymore because...
That's a real thing. The lingering feeling where
even though
is
he didn't
attached
do
to
anything,
something.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not in the wrong here. It's just that people connect him. It's like when you have a certain meal and you get food poisoning and you feel terrible, you're never going to eat that meal again, even if it was just one bad meal with a one specific, like you had bad pizza.
Yeah.
Or like one guy messed up your order and you're never going to McDonald's again.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like
that just one McDonald's one time. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I'm thinking is like, hey, I ordered a pizza. Yeah, I'm never
restaurant ever again.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, but can you take away, and obviously I'm downplaying this, guys. I totally hear the people that have an issue with Luke. I get it. But it's just like there's nobody can separate. Like the people that don't like it because the choice was made by Rian. So they see him at fault. So they don't want him to
also
be a part of what they think is theirs, you know?
And it seems clear to me that Kathleen Kennedy is a big fan of Rian Johnson. People like Pablo Hidalgo, he's always outspoken about Rian Johnson where he doesn't speak about other people. I think Lucasfilm really liked Rian Johnson because he was very collaborative with the story group and that sort of thing. So I think they appreciated that. and I think they also maybe get tired of Star Wars getting labeled as the campy fantasy thing. They like it getting prestige credit. And he's an artsy type of filmmaker. So is Tony Gilroy. They like to wax poetic about those types of filmmakers, which is fine. I think Star Wars, I like that Star Wars has all those types of things.
Right.
But so my point is, Disney then has to be the one has trepidation about this. And I'm just thinking of, like, for an example, like I remember we were talking about this and we said, what do you think would happen in this arena right now if they mentioned Rian Johnson? And you would get a smattering of applause and also a lot of boos. And you would get a mixed reaction from people. And that's exactly how it kind of is. Spread that out beyond the hardcore fans. People who love Star Wars. The people Disney needs to go watch Star Wars movies. I like Star Wars. Oh, there's another Star Wars coming out? Let's go see it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You could say, show them a Star Wars movie. Be like, do you know who directed that? They'd be like, I don't know, George Lucas? No idea. I just didn't like that movie. I bet there's people who don't know who directed Episode 9. They have no idea who wrote Episode 7.
They know Rian Johnson, though.
So, yeah. So
general fans, I'm saying general fans.
I'm saying general fans, too. I think he's tied to such a big reaction that
I think
people
I'm in
know.
line with Lacey. That
who see a movie and say, I didn't like that movie, but they couldn't say, like, that guy's name. They wouldn't know, like, who made it. They would just say, like, Star Wars made a bad movie. Disney made a bad movie.
I think that so many people had such a varied, like, there's obviously two sides of The Last Jedi, I feel. Like, you either really loved it or you really didn't like it. That's the majority of people, from my understanding, both casual and diehard. And that being said, I think the casual fans know Rian Johnson over other directors because they know it's tied to that, because they see it everywhere.
Right. So casual fans didn't really like The Last Jedi. Like, anyone I talked to about it, they love 7, they love 9, they didn't like 8.
Right. And they know it's Rian Johnson's because it's in the news all the time.
Maybe. I do think there's that I think there's that population of fans who just see it as Disney made a Star Wars movie. They don't really pay attention to the writers or the directors. Less so the writers, even.
Yeah,
more
it's
so
hard
than
to
the
say,
directors,
like, who. It's hard to put a number on the amount of people that don't know who directed the movie. If given the choice between the two options of, like, if you're out on the street and you're saying, you know, who directed The Force Awakens? You know, that Star Wars 7 when it came back, who was the director on that? And I think more people probably would answer J.J. Abrams.
I don't think so at all.
Really? So,
I think we are thinking in this bubble.
No. Not more people than people saying I don't know. More people than saying people knowing. Oh my gosh. Okay,
it's got to be your bowl,
John. I'm saying it's hard to put a number on the amount of people who would say they don't know who directed Star Wars. Okay, so take that out of the equation. Of all the people who get the answer or get the answer correct, I think more people would know that J.J. Abrams did Episode 7 than people would know that Rian Johnson did Episode 8.
Probably, because Force Awakens was a different animal.
Was big, and J.J. Abrams, it was a big name even before.
And everyone loved it.
And it was all wrapped around, like, other stuff. So I think that's the case. So I think Rian Johnson's lesser on that scale. And I do think you bring up a good point of there would be a large amount of fans that would just go see that new movie and just not have any clue that Rian Johnson, the same guy who did 8, had anything to do with it. But I don't think that when we're having these discussions that what we're not really talking about those people. We're talking about the people who are going to vocalize his return.
I agree. I think it's more about the a little more than casual.
I agree, but the casual fans speak with their wallets, and then that we've seen that with Solo, like what happens and what
that was due to Rian Johnson.
I know, but I'm saying I think that effect that it then has on what Disney does thereafter, it shifted the whole path. They were supposed to do a movie a year, then they were like, no more movies. Now we're doing streaming shows, and now they're shifting back to movies because they're losing money on the streaming side. It's so crazy what's happening. But back to that point, I think I am an optimist, so I would like to think even the people who didn't like, so James, like your segmenting of it, the people who didn't like The Last Jedi, I think some of those people maybe got a bad taste of Rian Johnson because they never saw Brick or they never saw anything he did
I have
before
Looper
that.
sitting on my kitchen counter right now.
So those people who were introduced to Rian Johnson through The Last Jedi had that bad taste in their mouth. It doesn't matter what they saw after. They're like, that freaking guy. Oh, man. I have a feeling that there is now the post Knives Out Glass Onion effect where those people maybe saw that and said, who made that? That guy? Wow. So then if he got a new Star Wars and they're like, this is set 500 years after the Skywalker saga, all new characters, you're going to go on a brand new adventure, people may be more open now because they saw what he did with an ensemble cast, got everyone involved in those scripts for Knives Out, fresh story he just created out of nowhere. They may be willing to give him that chance versus if they're like, Ryan's going to come in, but he's going to do something that's around 30 years around and there might be a tie-in here. In other words, I think there's a better chance people will give him a chance if they punt him way far away. And don't even go back. Don't go in the past, because what happens in the past can impact, the stories that happened around the Galactic Civil War, prequels, all that stuff. Go forward with Rian Johnson. Clean slate, wide open space, literally. I think that's where he would have to go if he's to come back to Star Wars, and I think that's the best chance for fans to embrace that based on the success they've seen him have with Knives Out and Glass Onion. Because I would bet gun to their heads, or blaster to their heads, people who hate Rian Johnson, hate The Last Jedi, I bet a lot of those people saw Knives Out and they're like, damn, that was pretty good, but I don't want to tell anybody.
I think you're giving people more of an ability to separate their love of Star Wars and Luke Skywalker to something else. Like, I think that the reaction to episode 8 is enough that people will be like, Ryan can do Glass Onion. Ryan can do whatever he wants. Just stay away from Star Wars. And
I'm sure there's still going to be those people.
I think it's a majority of people. And I think that the people that are gung-ho about Ryan have even made it even worse because they're so gung-ho about Ryan that they've made the people that could have come around not come around. Being said, if he did come back, which is what this discussion's all about, I think it's got to be what you guys are saying. It's got to be something completely separate from the Skywalker saga. It can't touch anything that's known. It's got to be its own thing. Let him play in the world. Yeah, let him play in his own Star Wars world. Maybe a connection with stormtroopers or something, like something, like glimmers of stuff here and there.
Not my stormtrooper.
Yeah, but nothing tied to Skywalker, nothing tied to what we know. It's got to be his own unique thing. Like Skeleton Crew, but even Skeleton Crew we're hearing is tying into things. So
So I had this question a little bit earlier, and I wanted to see what you guys thought, and now I'm kind of trying to blank on what my question was.
Well,
Go
James,
ahead.
while you think about it, let me just say where I'm sort of at. My personal opinion on it is I respect that he wants to come back, knowing everything he went through.
The fact that he keeps talking about it, I'm like, dude,
I have a lot of respect for his sort of guts. I mean, we say guts, he was so brave. He's a filmmaker. Like, get over it, John. But you know what I'm saying? Like, he's willing to throw himself back in the fire because he loves it so much and he had such a good time making TLJ. And he's not going to let the reaction take that away from him. And I respect that a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
But so part of me wants him to come back for that reason because I want to root for him. But also, I do sort of one foot in that camp you were just describing, Lacey, where it's like, man, this guy makes killer stuff. I liked Looper. I liked Brick. I liked Knives Out a lot.
I want him to keep making Knives Out stuff. Like, I would prefer that over. I
like The Last Jedi. It's not, I'm never going to reach for it to be my first one to pop on. I still like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to re-engage my own one-on-one relationship with that movie and not let fans who hurt my experience with it hurt my relationship with it going forward. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, is it worth it? Because it is still sometimes so contentious when fans talk about that movie. And it's not just people who don't like it, it's people who like it. So then there's going to be that sort of like anything Ryan does, we feel like we have to say he's the best and all this stuff like that because they have to overcompensate for the haters. And it's just like, it's a lot to deal with because I'm in the fandom deep with you guys and all our listeners and fellow podcasters and people all involved in this space. It sounds exhausting, but at the same time, I sort of want to root for it to happen. But like I said, the only way I see it happening is like punt that lightsaber 500 years past episode 9, give that guy a blank sheet and have at it.
You have so many other directors in the world. There's so many possibilities that you could do, and you just, it was so worth it. Like, you so enjoyed your time with Rian Johnson that you got to go back. I know he's accomplished, but is it worth it?
So with Lucasfilm, I think if it was completely up to them and Disney was like, you make the call here, we would have already seen his first movie in his trilogy. I think this is a Disney thing that was blocking it, because every other thing about this, when it goes to that thing I like to do, which is connect the dots, he's always talked about very highly from Kathleen Kennedy on down from people at Lucasfilm.
Yeah, he's
I think
still
if it was
talking
up
to
to
them. Yeah.
And she offered him, she flew across to Europe, wherever he was at the time, to offer him a trilogy, you know? So if it was up to them, I think it would already happen. So yes, I think that's the case. I also think things like Andor, which has been one of the least watched of the live action stuff, is going to have long-term benefits, because it's going to let other filmmakers see like, oh, I can go and play in Star Wars and do this type of stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It adds a prestige element to it. It may not have paid dividends now financially. Disney Plus is struggling a bit, but I think long-term having Andor there as like that rock is a good thing. And I think Lucasfilm thinks that way. I think this is a Disney thing more than anything. And I can see Bob Iger being like, I remember when that movie came out and what that did and what decisions we made about Solo after it. And we put our foot down and we put, all that stuff. And I could see him just being like, he's a great filmmaker, but I don't want to be at the helm when we announce he's doing this show or this movie. And I think it would be a movie at this point. And have fans just rip it apart. Like, in other words, is the juice worth the squeeze? And you could have the greatest filmmaker of all time, but if they make a Star Wars thing that splits fandom in half, you got to wonder if it's worth it. And
whereas like
so
stuff like
tough.
The Mandalorian,
which is my
everyone
question.
loves it.
John,
Yeah.
I mean, you put it into words. Like that's the saying, is the juice worth the squeeze on Mandalorian? Like, yeah, you guys are really going to stand by how good this trilogy turns out or whatever, when nobody wants to see it, or it's just causing your franchise to fall apart because there's discourse and arguments and all
when that first movie comes out,
banning
it's
and
like,
boycotts and all sorts
like
of
what's
stuff.
happening with Willow. You're going to get a 28% Rotten Tomatoes from the fans, and it's just going to be, more of the hate
It's going to be
machine.
0 before it even comes out.
I know, and that's the thing, and it could be the greatest thing ever, and the people might see it who hate Rian Johnson and love it and just purposely say they hate it still because they're pissed off about The Last Jedi.
Also, there's money in being negative. That's the other piece here that is not true or not talked about enough, is that there's money in clicks and advertising and hate and anger.
Disingenuous hate.
Yes.
Faux hate. Yeah.
Yep.
One
and real hate, but yeah.
Yeah, one thing about this is it might just end up being one of those things where, like, as he continues to put out great films and he continues to build up his credibility in Hollywood as one of the best or whatever, I think we're just going to look at the possibility of him doing future Star Wars projects in the same way we look at, like, say, Spielberg doing Star Wars. It's like, wouldn't that be great? But it's not going to happen, It's like,
Lucas wanted him to. Right?
I know, I get that. I'm saying, it's like, I wish it would happen, but it's probably not going to happen just because life is the way that it is, and we'll probably just be lucky that we got the one Rian Johnson movie and that be it. I'm starting to, and I've been the one that said, like, I still think it's happening because he keeps talking about it, but
hoping.
Well, that's only in the
it
most
has gone
recent
from
thing he said.
I'm working on it to I hope to God I come back to Star Wars.
Yeah, I just think people. It's just a person talking, Like, if I was asked about it 16 times, I'd try to deliver my feelings on it 16 different ways, and one of them would probably be like, Yeah, God willing, I hope it happens, you know?
I know, but it's gone from I'm working on
I'm
it,
writing it.
my story's working on it, my schedule's changed a bit. I don't know if it's happening. I'm talking to Kathleen. I hope it happens.
Yeah.
God willing, it's
Yeah.
progressed in the wrong direction, I would say.
I want to paint this picture to our audience. Like, as you're listening to us talk about this, you may already have your mind made up, but just stop for a second and think about this. Lucasfilm, StarWars.com article comes out. Rian Johnson directing a standalone Star Wars movie, 2028. What's your initial reaction to that? What's your guttural reaction to that? Are you nervous?
Did Dan
Are you
Brooks
excited?
write it? Did he put up a tweet that said boom?
Yeah, that's probably what happened. But you know what I mean? Like, I want them to like feel it as though it's just announced and think about like what was your initial reaction to thinking about that? And mine is nervousness
Mine is
because of fans.
honestly the gif of the Joker outside the whatever it is, and he just goes, "Here we go," and like everything blows up.
With the fairies. Yeah.
You know what? Like,
Yeah. Chaos.
Because you know it's going to be that. You know it's going to be two sides battling each other.
100%. That's why they don't mention him at Celebration. If they did at one of those panels, that arena, it would be like cheers, trying to out-cheer the boos.
My reaction is
like,
Chrissy Teigen, where it like zooms on her face and she's like,
yeah.
I can think of a ton of gifts that I'm wanting, but like I keep just thinking like if I did see that, I think I would probably do one of those like, all right, here we go.
I know.
You know, and I'm like, let's see it. Like the part of me like that is involved with the podcast and involved in Star Wars community would be like, like exactly what I've said this whole time. I'm not sure how this is gonna go,
but I'll watch.
The smartest move, Lucasfilm. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I personally am not gonna get hurt by this. I
Maybe
know
Jon
that
Stewart eating popcorn gift.
if it goes all the way and he does end up making this movie, I'm going to probably like it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I'm sitting here looking at this, and if I saw that, I would probably think, like, you know, from that outside perspective,
you would think it's going to be a long 2 years.
I would think like, oh, this is an interesting move. I'm intrigued to see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm that way too.
Yeah.
I think
I'm not like, oh my God, like,
right.
Like, I'd love to see a movie, but this was stupid. Like, now I'm going to be punished for 2 years for blah, 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 blah. No, I don't think I am being punished.
Jason Momoa opening the chair.
Yes.
Sitting
I love
down.
how John is just responding in gifs verbally.
Yeah. Well, audio.
My first.
Well, we don't have them up on the video.
No,
anyway,
I know.
But.
my first gift thought was actually the Emperor's New Groove with the thing, and he goes, "Bring it on."
Yeah.
That was my first gift thought.
I think if it was announced, I would feel a little bit like how I feel about Andor, and my concern would be the people who really seem to just like The Last Jedi, because there are fans who only like The Last Jedi. They came in at The Last Jedi, and they just like The Last Jedi, and then they would say whatever his new thing is finally Star Wars is good, or it's better than this, and like his Andor fans did that too. That pretentiousness is so obnoxious, and I really am so against the style of, I don't know how to articulate how I like something, so the only way I can say how good this is by how bad this other thing is. I can't stand that type of explanations on how people like things, and I think that would happen with his new project. And then on the other side, the people who hate him would be just as annoying. So it's like the people who hardcore like him and would want to knock other Star Wars down to build his up. And then on the exact opposite end, the people who hate him just like viciously. Like those two polar ends. And then me in the middle here, just like, I want him to make a good thing. I want to watch it. I like most Star Wars. This is pretty cool. Like, you stay back over there, and then you over there. You guys stay over there, and let me just sort of have my good time over here. But that's hard to do.
Meanwhile, I've been sitting over here for like the past 10, 15 minutes thinking about how, man, I would love a Big Mac right now with some fries because James brought up McDonald's. And I haven't had it forever. I was like, man, that would be delicious right now.
Use the McDonald's app. I love it.
I'll DoorDash it to Lacey's house right now.
Oh yeah, okay. No, I'm joking, but it's weird that one person within the Star Wars kind of production universe, can add so much anxiety to what we do and to fandom, and it's kind of unfairly placed. Like, I don't think it's right or wrong in the sense of what he did and what he chose to do with his story. It's his, I always say this, it's their characters, their story to tell, it's not mine. I don't own this. But there is a piece of this of like, it is a very personal thing for people. So I understand the uncomfortableness, maybe a little bit of anger. I just think everybody just needs to take a breath. I think things would be a lot better in general, not just in Star Wars, if everybody just took a second to be like, hey, I'm speaking to a human.
So to round out the discussion, because I feel like we're running out of steam, and we're up on time a bit.
I just don't know what else I could say except like I want to see it, but I'm kind of good. Like,
I want a Big Mac.
Yeah.
What's going through my head is just like running through all these like fun scenarios of like, what if you were on the streets and you were asking people, would you rather see Rian Johnson, the guy who did Last Jedi, do another Star Wars movie, or Pauly Shore or something? You know, like
Pauly. You always go to Pauly Shore. You love Pauly Shore.
No, I think he's like the Nickelback or something of like where you can sort of just
just go to. I am curious, James, going off your question of like, if you were to pose that, not just to diehard fans, but just general people that like Star Wars, hey, would you like another movie by Rian Johnson or more Mandalorian? What do you think people would say?
In that, I think that's an easy one. More Mandalorian would win.
That's what I'm saying, though, is I think this scenario is kind of overshadowed by how popular The Mandalorian has gotten.
But I'm thinking even with my analogy there of like, if you were trying to come up with where's the line, like how bad of another option do you have to go before Rian Johnson would actually win? Where is that line?
I don't think you have to go that deep.
I don't know.
So let's say right now, you get
like
told
I think
that...
okay, let's go with bad but not terrible, like M. Night Shyamalan or something like that. I think people
I would take Ryan over M. Night.
Yeah,
so that's interesting.
Not even close.
See,
Ryan has a better track record.
But I think I'm leaning on Lacey's side here. Like, I think there are people out there that as soon as they figured out Rian Johnson was the guy who did 8, they would go M. Night. Anybody but Ryan.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
As soon as they put those connections together, there would be the extreme of anybody. I'll take anybody over, and they might not even really mean that, but that's
Colin
how the
Trevorrow,
poll would come up.
Rian Johnson.
Yeah, so it's like how far down that line would you have to go before it would actually start to be 50-50, or actually people would be like, well, I guess I'd rather see another Rian Johnson movie, even though I hated it, over
Okay, how about
someone who, you know, a
Rian
dog.
Johnson, Colin Trevorrow. Which one would you choose? Colin Trevorrow, Rian Johnson.
Man.
I would choose Rian Johnson.
I've never seen Colin Trevorrow make a Star Wars, so it's hard for me to do that.
Yeah, well,
it's hard.
I mean, but that's the same with M. Night Shyamalan or Pauly Shore.
Phil Lord, Chris Miller,
like somebody else,
or Rian Johnson.
Lord Miller.
Well, I would take Lord Miller in that because I think they were on their way to doing something cool.
Aren't they involved with Cocaine Bear, which Alden Ehrenreich's in?
Is he in that movie?
He is.
Yeah.
He's like this drugged up guy. It's actually really funny. That trailer's terrible though. Matt and I were talking about
Oh my god, that looks incredible.
It looks incredible, but the trailer is cut together poorly.
Oh,
Matt and I were talking about the actual dynamic of the trailer cut.
Isn't that on purpose though? Because it's like cocaine. It's supposed to be like chaos.
I think it was
didn't even
just
notice
cut
him. Is he in the trailer,
poorly.
or is he just in the movie?
Yeah, he's wearing a jean jacket.
Yeah, he has like 2 lines in the trailer.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And one of his lines is, "The effing bear is on cocaine.
I seriously, he must like look different or something. I don't know. I didn't even notice it. I watched it. I was like, yeah,
Carrie Russell's
I'm
in
not
it.
interested in
Yeah.
that at all.
Yeah, Zori Bliss, Han Solo. It's a scene, man.
Anyway.
All right. So I think the best case situation would be if he is coming back. In my opinion, way post episode 9,
Mm-hmm.
he gets to do a movie or something, and tell his own story. And then I think that would be the best case scenario for him to get accepted back with fans, and also just let someone who's such a good creator create without limitations. And he couldn't do that in the middle of a saga trilogy. So, yeah, there would be, you'd be eliminating the variable of, well, JJ wanted to do this, and then Ryan did this, and then JJ in response did this. It's like, no, here you go, create a story. It's in Star Wars. Go. I don't know, but I'm curious what everyone thinks about it, our listeners, and there's going to be more debate about it as every time there's a snippet from him about his future with Star Wars and stuff. And it is the most interesting situation because there's still the chance that he is coming back. And I'm not saying it's like Voldemort, but when you hear the name Rian Johnson, you get nervous as a Star Wars fan because you don't know, even when you're like out somewhere and you're like sizing someone up and you're like, yeah, did you see that new Rian Johnson movie? And he's like, yeah. He's like, oh, is he the guy who did Star Wars? Like, yeah. It's like, what'd you think of that? And you're like, they're like, that movie sucked. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
or that,
yeah.
or like, oh, I like that one. And you're like, okay, you know, it's like what he's a barometer. It's interesting. So, any final thoughts on this before we move on?
Not really. I think
All right.
we talked it through pretty well. I just look forward to, regardless of Rian Johnson doing it or not, more movie announcements. Please.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And if he does come back, I'll be rooting for him.
Me too.
That actually reminded me of what it was that I was almost about to say, and that it was that we have had Jon Favreau, and we had now I'm blanking on his name, but the Book of Boba Fett showrunner,
Robert
Rodriguez, and then we just recently had Tony Gilroy doing these shows. And when it was coming to like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, there's so many other talented people that could direct and lead these types of franchises, and would they want to dip their toes in Star Wars? I actually think that because of the recent success of the TV series, I think that it's more likely that we should be looking forward to good storytellers coming into the Disney Plus side over the movie side even.
I'll tell you right now.
And being I don't want to do a movie. There's too much pressure with all that stuff. But if I'm going to do Star Wars, could I do a show? Like, that would be really cool. And again, that's, Lindelof's doing a movie, right? He's not doing the show.
Yeah. You got to keep an eye on what's going on with Disney Plus, though, because like that loss that they reported,
Well,
like they may be changing that.
What was the loss?
$1.5 billion.
That's why they're raising the price at $10.99.
40% of their subscribers, or 30 to 40% of their subscribers, are in India, and they only pay the equivalent of like $3 a month. So it's a real serious issue, and like they're obviously looking at the returns on the series, and there were some that got big ratings, some that didn't. But even the Marvel ones, I don't think some of them got the biggest returns. On
I know
views.
Hawkeye didn't do that well. I don't think
She-Hulk did well either. I haven't even seen that.
I still find it so fascinating. Like, I've always thought Disney Plus was sort of a no-brainer. Like, I'm like, okay, it's like, you know, X amount. Now, if they're raising it very high, obviously.
people are picking. People are picking and choosing now.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like anybody with kids, which are a lot of people, right? I just feel like that would be a no-brainer. One, because they would just have access to every Disney, you know, all the Disney content, all the old movies, everything. And you don't get that on Netflix. You don't get that on Hulu and all these other stuff. So if you have kids, Disney Plus is like, well, we have to have that. I know there's other options like Noggin and other things, but my stuff is I'm so surprised that Disney isn't just that standard one for so many families.
That, like, the recent numbers that came out were surprisingly that more people that don't have kids have purchased subscriptions to Disney Plus in the last year than people who do have kids. And that's probably why they're turning to opening the door to stuff like Deadpool and R-rated stuff going on Disney
Which
Plus.
they're
They're
now
like, we have to
reevaluating, like
feed-
Daredevil, I heard is.
We have to feed to the audience that's buying this stuff. It doesn't mean we're taking away the family-friendly stuff, but we got to be cognizant of that. And then also the potential merging of Hulu. I mean, it's going to be a lot of changes, I think, and Iger now is tasked with being responsible to do that. But the last thing I was just thinking, if Indy 5 is like just a smash, I'm talking like it's going to make money
What
because
if it
Indy 4
doesn't?
made a ton of money. It 100% will make money.
Billion?
But at least $1 billion. Yeah.
At least.
But yes, I think Top Gun
how
money.
fast?
I think
How fast will it hit $1 billion?
I don't know.
I
think
I
it'll-
don't know. I'm just
I
intrigued
hope
how
Avatar
confident
succeeds.
you are.
Right, Rise of Skywalker made $1 billion, and I don't think I think Indy 5 will probably be received better by people than that. But here's what I'm saying: if it's a hit with critics and with fans and makes a lot of money, you know damn well they're gonna like try to get him to do like the next Star Wars trilogy kickoff or something.
Who,
James
Mangold?
I mean,
Mm.
yeah.
He was supposed to do
Yeah.
Boba Fett, wasn't he?
I think there was a rumor he was doing stuff with Mando, but he debunked that.
Mm.
But
No.
so we'll see.
Lacey's
No,
right.
he was originally doing a Boba Fett movie.
It was like we were in the theaters to go see maybe Solo, and the
And
news
then
dropped that
Solo
Mangold
got
was doing
canceled.
a
He
Boba
was gonna
Fett
do
movie.
Boba Fett movie? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And then it got canceled after Solo.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
Obi-Wan got
then
reworked after Solo.
Obi-Wan, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, hopefully Indy is awesome, and then hopefully he does do Star Wars. But
And then the
that's-
Mangold
we'll-
thing
we'll
was
find out.
someone said he directed a episode of Mandalorian, but he
Mando,
was
that
just
was
at
it.
set, I think,
Yeah.
just looking at the technology or something.
He was drinking coffee like George Lucas.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I missed that man.
Hmm.
Oh man, I'd love to sit down and talk to that guy about like Panda Express or something. Apparently, he loves mall food. Anyway, let's move on to our next segment. Why don't we? And Lacey,
You're
you want
gonna
me to do
it.
this?
Yeah.
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 All right. I don't know that I don't do the spiel as well as Lacey does, but I'll give it my best shot here. So this is the Patreon Padres. All right, now you want to make sure you're subscribed to the pod, whether that's your favorite audio app or, of course, our new channel, youtube.com/@theResistanceBroadcast. But we also have, believe it or not, if you're not tired of us, a lot more exclusive content on our Patreon. So you can go to patreon.com/resistancebroadcast, and tiers start at $5 a month to support the podcast. And it's not so much that you're going to be getting this exclusive stuff like our Q&As. We have meetup calls with our top tiers. We have a Discord server. Our polls, poll chats, polls. You can submit topics to the show. A ton of stuff just by becoming a patron at $5 and up. Check out the tiers, patreon.com/resistancebroadcast. But if you are one of our generals or spice runners, you can actually be on the show. And that's what this segment is. So what we do is we pitch you a topic or a question. You give us your answer, and boom, here you are on the Resistance broadcast. Now, before we get into that, we do have to thank our top tiers, our generals and our spice runners. So thank you to our generals, Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Danny, Mike Ramori, Matt Heath, Chris White, Brendan McLaughlin, Count Pepto, Sneaky Zebra, the cool names, Paul Sullivan, and Aaron Ellington, our newest general. Thank you, Aaron. And our Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gelner, Ryan WAARA, Dave HORNAK, Thomas Hennessy, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and Michael Fry. And thank you to them and all of our patrons for all of your support. Again, check out the site. If you want to support what we do, it means a great deal because it will allow us to grow. And you're starting to see us do other videos. We're doing Willow reactions, indie reactions, Guardians of the Galaxy trailer reactions, a lot of stuff that we're doing on our channel, on our podcast feed, and your support allows us to put the time and work in to do that. So if you're able to, consider supporting TRB. Thank you. This week on the Patreon Padres is General Frank Grande. What's up, Frank? And we asked Frank, it's December 2025. You're sitting in the theater about to see a new Star Wars movie for the first time since Rise of Skywalker. The Lucasfilm logo flashes on screen, And are you hoping for that classic Star Wars opening sequence, or do you prefer something different like what we got with Solo and Rogue One? Frank, what do you got?
Hey, so you probably guessed that I'm a big fan of the classic Star Wars opening sequence. I love it. You know, I remember when the Force Awakens came out and just sitting in the theater, and all of a sudden, bam, it says Star Wars, and then the word scrolls came out, and I was just like, Star Wars is back, and I was so pumped. And that's why I really hope we get it again in the movies. Nothing against Rogue One or Solo, because I love those movies, but yeah, that classic sequence, opening sequence, is just it just made me feel like a kid again. It makes me feel home, you know. And just, to me, it separates Star Wars from other movie franchises, because when you see that, you're pumped and you just know you're in for a great time. So here's crossing fingers, hoping we'll get it again. All right, well, that's my take, and hope you have a great day, and may the Force be with you.
All right, there he is. There's Frank's answer. Oh my God, that is as unique as they get. Lacey, what did you think of what Frank put together for us?
Frank, you killed it. Well done. I loved how you brought that into the video. I completely agree. There's something so wonderful about the opening crawl, and as soon as you see it, you just get so hyped. Even after the person that yells at the Lucasfilm logo, you just get that much more excited to see those big words and to get the fanfare and all the excitement and the crawl sequence music, and you're just like, I'm in a Star Wars movie. And there's always someone that records it with the flash on, and everyone's like, stop, turn your phone off. But there's just something about the camaraderie with the opening sequence, which is just so exciting. Thanks for making this video. We really appreciate it. We love having you in the community. You killed it, as always. Great job.
Yeah, James, what do you think, buddy? I know Rogue One's your thing, so.
I mean, I get it. I think that Star Wars made the right decision of doing stuff moving away from it, but I think that the fans very clearly miss it too. So I think if we are talking about 2025, and, you know, I don't know if in this scenario we're talking about episode 10, but I think that they would probably be right to bring it back and probably just have a couple missteps or something, however they want to approach it. But I think it's probably the right thing. I think you're right, Frank. Fingers crossed we get it again. Thanks for sending us that. It was crazy, and thanks for being a patron.
Yeah, Frank, I know I'm going to blow up your spot, but when you sent it, you're like, let me know if this is okay. If it's stupid, I can do it again. Not stupid. I thought it was clever. I thought it was adorable. I thought it was awesome. You making that crawl, so that's pretty cool. I agree with you. I am actually going to go a step further and say I think it was a mistake that they took it out. I think there's something about part of, there's the hunger for the theatrical experience for Star Wars, and I think as that grows with that is that moment that everyone knows, and it's when the screen goes black again after the a long time ago, and you're waiting for the blare and the yellow letters, and it's just a very it's Americana. It's a staple. It's it's something that is not able to be replicated by any other franchise, as you put it. It's very distinct, and I think running away from that is a mistake. So I think Rogue One it had a crawl, and I think they got rid of it. And then Solo, they did like an abridged thing. But I think it's got to come back. And whether it's a saga film or anything, I think every Star Wars film should have it. You could change the colors of it if you want to leave yellow for the Skywalker saga, do blue or whatever for other ones. I just think it's so integral to what Star Wars is. And to me, that's not nostalgia or fan service. It's just the DNA of Star Wars movies. And kicking off a Star Wars movie with that, it feels naked without it. So I'm with you, Frank, and I hope we do. I'm crossing my fingers too, man. So thank you for your answer. Great job setting the bar for the next person. So thank you so much for all of your support. As always, you're always so supportive of us, whether it's on Twitter or in the Discord, just being a great fan. And that means a great deal to us. So not only did you do a great job, but you're an awesome fan, and we're honored to have you. Thanks, buddy. We're not done yet, though. So we're bringing it back. It's been a while because we were doing our Andor stuff, but it's time for our next segment, and Lacey is going to do that.
I just realized I lost the chance to say, and now we're going to go to Lacey. Thanks, Lacey.
Yep.
Greatest moment of my life.
I already did it anyway. All right, guys, it's time for Resistance Transmissions. So this is the part of the show where we hear from you. John puts up a crazy, wacky situation on Twitter, and you guys give your answers. And I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what you said. And we see how it goes. It's been a while. It's nice. It's like coming home, you know? Like the best.
Oh.
All right. So the situation is pick any Star Wars character and what their Top Gun call sign would be. And no, Star Wars call signs like Red 5 don't count. I love how John has gotten to the point now that he always has to add a little bit of a caveat to all these.
I gotta. Because
I got one. They already have them. It's called Red 5. All right.
Okay. First up is postcards.
Gold Leader. Ever heard of it?
Postcards from the Galaxy's Edge at PCGE_podcast. Hey, Shannon. How's it going? She said,
Shannon.
Ray Scavenger Skywalker. Love it.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Next is Mark at the Kind of Vacants. And he said Cyril Trix Karn, as in the cereal Trix.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get it.
Well done, Mark.
Yeah, supposedly they're like the Trolls cereal that they just pull all the blue ones out. Like it's the Troll World Tour movie, like special cereal, and they bought a bunch of boxes and just pulled the blue ones out.
Wow.
Pablo Hidalgo just had a few, and he's having a bowl of cereal at 2 a.m. and he's like, you know what? I'm bringing this by Tony. I'm putting that in the show.
Next is Mike Ramori at Drum Jedi, who said Will Huff Slippers Tarkin. Well done. You guys are really good at this.
That's excellent.
Next is Brian Pothier at B Pothier. Brian, how's it going, man? Where you been? He said Anakin Skywalker, call sign Sandman.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. By the way, did you guys see this was in our Patreon Discord? We have a section called Dad Jokes. I think it was in Dad Jokes. But somebody posted like Tarkin being like, you know what really makes me mad? What really grinds my gears? Like how people don't think I'm the main villain of this movie. It's like, what did Darth Vader do? He like killed some old guy and then like didn't and lost the plans or something. It's like very clearly he's the villain of that movie, and for some reason people just don't think of him as it because I guess Darth Vader continues on. So they think
I love that James just had to explain the joke to us like we wouldn't get it.
No, did I do that?
Yeah.
I don't even know what the joke was.
The joke is he's saying that Tarkin was just like, why is Vader the real villain? Like, I'm clearly the villain.
Yeah.
Oh,
But what I was explaining was I think why people say that is probably because Vader was in the later movies and they just think of him as all three. But
yeah, I get what you're saying though. The first one, he really doesn't do that much. He just goes.
In the first one, like if Star Wars stood on its own, I don't think Vader's. He's like wow, but I don't know if people do think of him as the villain. I think they would probably think of him as
that one
the enforcer.
Line, that one line where he goes, Vader, release him, and he goes, as you wish. That is that sort of power dynamic where Tarkin is sort of giving him Vader an order.
Yeah, like I think they would think of him more as like the enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
next is Carmelo at A Gray Jedi. Hey, Mello, how's it going? He said Grogu and the call sign is Baby Yoda.
That's
not
perfection.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next is Brian Ward at Brian E. Ward. Hey, Brian. He said Weequay, bartender, call sign Freetown. It's Freetown now. That's still to me one of the funniest parts of The Mandalorian where he's just like, it's Freetown. Like, because they had to get it in there. They had to make sure that they were like, hey, book people. Don't worry, we got
Yeah.
you.
It's Freetown.
So funny. I guarantee that like that line got added later, and they were like, "Hey Favreau, we gotta add this line here where he says it's Freetown," and John's like, "What?" He's like, it's gotta make sense with the book," and he's just like, "Whatever."
It was originally an F-bomb. It was F-Town, and they changed it to Freetown.
That's an Andor joke.
You're really
Yeah.
grasping.
Oh, people just laughed at that. They appreciated that.
Nobody laughed. All right, and last but not least is Adam Odell. Adam, congrats on your new Padawan, Adam. Congratulations to you and your family.
Yeah.
We're really happy for you. He said Tally Lintra, call sign burnt toast.
Oh,
I would say that our
man.
call sign's bombs away.
As we have a conversation on Rian Johnson.
You know what's
Yeah,
the funniest
his
thing
character.
about that is that it started with like a joke about how I was like, I don't get why you hear her voice as you're outside the spaceship instead of inside the spaceship with her. And it's so jarring to me because everybody else, you hear them inside their spaceship. Like the sound
In the
is
cockpit.
Yeah, sitting like you're in the cockpit with them. And then for hers, when she goes, bombs away, it's outside the spaceship and it bothers me. So then it turned into a joke where I was like, yo, she sucks. Even though there's nothing wrong with her, but it's stuck on this long.
I thought you didn't like her because you didn't like the line. Like the...
She didn't like how she says it.
I don't like how she says it, and I don't like the sound of her, of it. It was a choice decision to make it outside the ship.
It should have been a camera that goes from the inside and then through the glass and out. So she's just like, bombs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, she's not a bad character. I feel bad that she dies. Like, I'd make jokes like, oh, good, she died. I'm clearly joking.
Kylo Ren killed her.
Yeah, he totally did. Spin move into killing her.
Yep.
But
Murder.
I just feel like that line was one of those lines, and it happens in every movie that you just go, ugh, I didn't need it.
Star Wars has plenty of those lines.
I'm not saying it's just this movie. I'm saying all of them have it. They are just like, ugh, I don't know. But just to add on to that, the sound of it being outside the ship bothers me. I'm like, why did you do that? You have everyone inside their ships. You have Poe for the first 10 minutes of the movie inside his ship. Why is she outside? Why is the camera outside her ship? Drives me nuts. And the way that she goes, bombs away. Like, good, you're gone. You're blown up. Bombs away
That's
indeed.
That's why Kylo Ren killed her. He couldn't stand how she said bombs away.
Just
She's like,
thumb.
you're out. Yeah.
Anyway. Yay, Star Wars. Back to you, John.
All right. I mean, we've been pounding the drum, but we need your help. So make sure you are subscribed to our channel, youtube.com/@theresistance_broadcast. And of course, your favorite podcast app. Thanks to everybody who's been sharing their Spotify Wrapped of the Resistance broadcast. It's so cool to see us in the top 5 amongst other, like, it's so weird seeing people like Joe Rogan, which is the most watched podcast in the world, and then Resistance broadcast. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
thanks guys, appreciate that. But is
It's like
all
number
jokes
4
aside, it's
on
amazing.
that list, or whatever.
Yeah, it's amazing that people share those things and that you listen to us. So thank you, and thanks for everybody trying to support us on the new channel and that new venture. So appreciate that, and just for listening and watching and being a part of our community, spreading the word, all that stuff. Thank you so much. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We'll be putting out an episode tomorrow, I believe, on Batman Returns, Christmas movie style. I feel like I missed plugs, but I don't know. But anyway, James, what's up?
Twitter and Instagram, both at Myra Trunks. That's where you can
And
find
Lacey?
me.
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran, and then on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran.
All right.
Did not get my handle. Well, I technically did, but they won't give it back to me. So.
Yeah, punks. All right. Well, we hope everyone has a great week. We will be back with you on Thursday as we go live, TRB Live. And of course, the podcast apps the following day. But thank you all again, and we will see you next time with another episode right here on the Resistance Podcast. You around, kids?